So today's guest is Nicholas Gibbs. He has his own YouTube channel called Investing with the Grain. Welcome, Nicholas. I appreciate you joining us today.
Hey, thank you. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for any audio or anything. We had technical difficulties on my end.
No worries. You actually always sound so good, but this is brings you back to normal. I love that. Okay, well, today's topics are pretty kind of interesting because they all are associated with Tesla's competitors. We're going to be comparing Tesla against other brands. We're going to look at their other new EV cars that are coming out, and we're going to be looking at, I think something's quite interesting is the Tesla factory in China against BYD's factory. So let's get going. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Nicholas. I appreciate this. So let's get started first with the IRA and incentive that's coming out. So there's been a lot of confusion of what's happening, and finally the IRA came out, and been a lot more clear, or it's getting clearer about what to happen. So Ford said that four of its 6 electric and plug-in hybrid models will see tax credits halved to $3,750 instead of $7,500 on April 18th after the new U.S. Treasury rules. Ooh, this is going to hurt them big time. So this is, they're talking about only the F-150 Lightning pickup truck and the Lincoln Aviator Grand Touring will still be eligible for the 7,500. The other models, Ford Mustang Mach-E, the Ford E-Transit, the Ford Escape plug-in, and the Lincoln Corsair Grand Touring will see their credits drop to $3,750. And the reason why this is that they are, requiring the vehicles be assembled in North America, and also I think the other bit is that the minerals need to be sourced in the U.S. as well, North America instead of China. And so these guys are being caught, and now they're going to have to react to it. So, what was your thinking about all this?
My first thought was that it was funny that the F-150 Lightning was the thumbnail for that article.
Yeah.
That was funny. So sometimes the fun goes both ways. Yeah. I mean, I think we all kind of knew something like this was coming, coming down the line. So I don't think it should be too shocking to anyone, but this does hurt them. I mean, I don't even care about the other ones. It's the Mach-E that it really hurts, because Mach-E is, I mean, that's really their bread and butter, right? I mean, you could say that F-150 Lightning, but I'd say the Mach-E is the main one that's really getting them traction for, 10,000 vehicles, you call that traction. But yeah, it's going to hurt because it's just going to make it less desirable. I mean, why would you buy that over Model Y? I mean, why would you do it to begin with? But yeah, it's definitely a sting for them. I mean, but it is what it is, right? I mean, I'm happy that this is actually happening, because it's just going to be good for us in general as a country, as a society, to help support up local businesses, local manufacturers. And it's really the impetus that needs to be there to help, procure all these minerals from the United States, or, whatever countries are part of this agreement. So I think it's pretty good. Ford will figure it out, but hopefully it's just not too late by the time they do.
Good. Can you do something so that you can keep your phone a little more stable if you can? Do what you can. But anyways, it's interesting that this is happening. People don't realize that Teslas are the most American-made cars. They have batteries, they have factories, they have the manufacturing here. And I think this is one kind of way to show the world that, they need to get things working out much better. Thank you. Okay. So just showing, not just Ford, but GM as well said last week that some of their electric vehicles will qualify for the 7,500 tax credit and the rest won't. So the ones that will qualify is the Cadillac Lyriq and the upcoming Chevrolet Equinox and the Blazer. But this is the part that's interesting. Is they said that expects the Bolt vehicles to still qualify for some level of credit. Oh my gosh, this is their Bolt.
Yeah, that's a problem, right? Because I think what they do this last quarter, 2 Hummers, and then the rest were essentially Bolts. So, I mean, yeah, again, and I do think long term, this is where GM's strategy of focusing on Ultium, even though I don't agree with the architecture or anything, if they have I don't know if they have or haven't, but they have been working on sourcing locally and or countries that fall within the IRA requirements, then this is where GM's play for focusing on that will pay off, at least from an IRA perspective. Maybe not the market, but to get those credits.
Yeah. So I did find this incredible article. It talks about kind of the whole story about the IRA credits and what it requires, but it was too long, too detailed. I didn't have the chance to delve into it. I was gonna like cut pieces of parts of it, but it's so complicated still. I need time to really understand it. But it is, there's the kind of maneuvering between the Senate and the kind of trying to get some pieces in and some pieces out. But it looks like the minerals need to be made here in the U.S. And so that's part of the new move here. So but another great news for Tesla is that the Model Y is the most important electric vehicle of not only for Tesla, but all electric vehicle revolution right now. And it has full access to the full 7,500 federal tax credit under the new requirements. So this is all the Model Ys, the long range, the all-wheel drives, the performance, 2022 and 2023. So another big deal that's going to separate Tesla from the others. Yeah.
I mean, that's a big deal, right? I mean, not only was the Model Y already the leading contender, but on this side of the Western Hemisphere, the only real competitor to the Model Y was the Mach-E, I would say. Maybe some of the ID cars if you really want to stretch it, but now, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. Now the competition is essentially dead as far as I'm concerned.
Oh God, I know. So far it is dead so far, and the numbers are proving the same thing. Well, here's a big thing about the brand. So KBB awarded this as their fourth year in a row. Tesla continues to be the best overall luxury brand. And also they won best value, most refined, and best performance. So this is kind of here, best value brand, most refined, and the best performance luxury brand. So I don't know, how much do you believe in these kind of, surveys and these kind of KBB?
The survey itself, I think, is kind of silly in general, but it is a symptom of something, right? And the symptom, or the greater story here is that it's like Apple, right? Like Apple is known for the brand, for the quality, for their OS. I mean, if you're not an Apple person, then maybe this doesn't resonate with you, but it's the ecosystem, it's how seamless things work, it's the software, it's the beauty in the product, attention to detail, the minimalism, and that's what leads to this great brand of Apple. And I think that's what Tesla has as well. It's not just the brand, but what got to the point where people feel this way about the brand, and it's all the things that lead up to it. It starts from Elon to the team and to the inspiration that they give us, like Steve Jobs used to the quality of the vehicles, the way the OS works, from your, getting to different vehicles, just syncs to F. I mean, that's the part that these brand surveys kind of miss. Like the brand surveys is the result of everything underneath. And so to me, that's the main thing that this tells me, is that that's still intact and that's very strong from a consumer sentiment.
What do you think? Since you brought up Apple, a lot of people are saying that they see this playing out exactly the way the smartphone wars happened, right? So eventually, you ended up with two major players. You had Apple's iPhone, and then you had Google, the Android, and the Samsungs. And the Android was kind of, was the base software that supplied all the other Androids, and they kind of had the one and two. Now, some people are saying, well, yeah, it sounds like Tesla's going to be the Apple and BYD will be the Android. But do you think that that's actually what's going to play out? Is there a way that BYD will take over the kind of the low end, and or is there somebody going to supply these other manufacturers and brands so they can still survive?
I think it'll be, yes, I think it will mirror Apple and Samsung in the fact that it'll essentially be a duopoly and then a whole bunch of niche players. But I think the difference is not only will Apple be the dominant player, but they will also be the dominant when it comes to volume, not just from profits, but volume as well. I think, Tesla's just doing things on another level. I mean, like you look at BYD and you look at their margins. Okay, cool. they have somewhat decent margins, but then when you actually look at their operating margins, right, like look at their net income, all of a sudden you realize how badly the company really is functioning, whereas Tesla doesn't have that problem. And so Tesla has everything fine-tuned from the financial perspective, but also from the engineering. And when this next gen vehicle comes out, that's where they're going to be able to be the Samsung and the Apple. But I still think that there will be other players out there like a BYD, and it'll probably be like Tesla and BYD that dominate. But I think Tesla will be the number one on profits and volume.
Okay. On echo cancellation, tell me if you guys hear a difference. I just turned on echo cancellation on my side. See if that works.
Everything sounds good to me.
Yeah. Okay. Benjamin keeps saying that there is when I talk, there's a high pitch. Yes. So I'll need to figure that out. Okay. So the other thing that happened was Ram came out. They said that they have a new 2025 Ram 1500 electric vehicle that's coming out, and it has a massive battery. So two sizes, 168 kilowatt per hour and 229 kilowatt per hour. The Hummer is at 212. So the 229 is supposed to be 500-mile range, and the 168 I think is either 320 or 340 miles. 800-volt system, bi-directional charging, 14,000 pounds. So this is what it'll look like. This is the Dodge Ram, right? What's your thinking about this?
I think that is a fantastic looking car or truck. Yeah. It's a fantastic looking truck for 2015. The fact that this is coming out in 2026, I think is what it was. Like that's like where's the change up? Where's the innovation? Where's the rethink of what it should look like? I get the nostalgia, right? We see it with F-150 and the Ram, the 1500. And don't get me wrong, 1500 was a truck I loved for a long time, a lot more than F-150 aesthetically, but yeah, I don't know, for 2026 to be bragging about these things and have a battery the size as what the Hummer has. And again, how many cells of the Hummer did we just have? 2. So I don't know.
2 cells.
I think I don't even understand why they're even talking about any of this, right? Because you would think that in 3 years, you're telling me that you can't make improvements from aerodynamics to reducing weight to better manufacturing. Like it's odd. I think it's impressive for 2015. It's not impressive for 2026. And that's not something that I sit there and I say, okay, I'm willing to wait for this. Whereas the Cybertruck, I see that and I'm willing to wait for that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what do you think though? Are we just all like a small subset, or is this going to be everybody, like the vast majority of truck drivers out there truck buyers will do this?
No, I think truck buyers are 2 type of people. One, they're slower to adopt newer technology, but they're also people who are smart enough and they want the best of the best. They don't want something that's just going to get me by. And so when those two eventually catch up to each other, I think this is where stuff like the 1500 and F-150 aren't really gonna cut it. I mean, at that point, they'd probably rather just get an ICE truck for probably less. And I think the second the Cybertruck comes out, you're really going to see the writing on the wall for Ford and GM, especially since that's their bread and butter. I think it's going to be that obvious.
Yeah.
What do you think?
What do I think? Well, it's I do. I'm biased like you. I think the Cybertruck is an amazing revolution. I think that once people see that, they're going to be embarrassed to drive their truck. We need to understand is what's the psychology of the truck buyers, right? They're not buying it because of utility, right? I mean, I guess there's a portion the contractors are. The vast majority of buyers, right, are there because I want the biggest, baddest vehicle out there. I want to be, set up high. I want to feel strong and powerful. But then once they see the Cybertruck, they're going to realize how slow it is and how flimsy it is. And then I think if Cybertruck has so much technology in it, it makes it much more can just the ability to take it off road, to do camping, the electric power that comes out of it and all that, maybe it can differentiate even more. But I think just the way it looks and the way it's just, it's powerful, right? So yeah, I think it's one of those things where you didn't like it the first time you saw it, and then the next day, all of a sudden you fell in love with it. And I think that's the same thing that's going to happen.
I was the same way.
We'll see.
I was absolutely the same way. And we can tie this back to Apple again, right? I mean, when people first saw what Apple came out with their phone, people were like, I don't know about that. It's not what they were used to. They weren't used to just a glass with one button. But then everybody has that now, right? Everybody has that type of phone. And I'll say one more thing. If you haven't seen the Cybertruck in person, I'm telling you, if you like it, just seen it online or videos, seeing it in person, I've never had this effect with another product or anything. But when you see it in person, it's just different. I don't know. I get it. I sound like a fanboy. I am a fanboy. But I'm telling you, Tesla aside, Cybertruck aside, it's the only product that when you see it in person, you're like, whoa, okay, this is even like crazier and more awesome than I thought it was. It hits you in a different way. I can't explain it, but you'll see.
You're a dichotomy, Nicholas, because we called you the pragmatic bull. You're very reserved. You're very careful about the economy or the stock, but then you're also still a fanboy.
I mean, where are we? We're not at 300, are we?
We're not at 300. You're correct. You're okay. Okay, you're right there.
I want to be at 300. I want to be at 600.
No, I know. You were correct. I think, right. Because you were very, very careful about several months ago when we had you on here, and you kept saying, you just don't see the economy rebounding that quickly. And at first we thought you were wrong, and then, you're back on track. So
I thought I was wrong for a little bit there.
Okay, let's get to the big topic. And I really like this topic, and I know you do as well. So I don't know how accurate this is, but we had this person say that Tesla Shanghai factory, Giga Shanghai, it employs 19,000 people, and it has an annual output of 1 million cars, right? But BYD's Pingshan factory employs 50,000 people, and it only produces 350,000 cars. So you can see the big difference right off there. But, is it because Tesla Shanghai factory is so, technology forward with all these robots, or is it because BYD is fully integrated? This factory is not only making the cars, the trucks and cars, the cars, they're also making batteries and so forth. That part I didn't understand. But if this is true, this is a huge difference between why Tesla is able to have such margins, right?
Yeah, I would take this with a grain of salt. I mean, like when you first read this, you're like, wow, you want to believe it 100%. But I would take it with a grain of salt, for one, because we don't know how true it is. But two, BYD's also has a lot of, let's just say, government influence or government help. And if you've spent any time in China at all, or if you've worked there or anything, like I've done some engineering projects in China, but what you learn is that a lot of times it's not just about being productive or having low employee count, kind of like what a traditional capitalist country would have, but it's about getting everybody employed, right, and making sure we have mass employment and trying to push towards that. So I don't know if there's something there or not by BYD because of the influence from the government, but that could also be a part of it. They may have a lot of people, but a lot of the people, for the volume of people they have, they may be paying them the same amount as what Tesla is for less people. But Tesla is functioning in China as an actual capitalist-based company, right? So there are some differences there as well at play that I would potentially just take all of it with a grain of salt. But when you first read it, it's pretty exciting if true.
Yeah. So earlier we were talking about that potentially Tesla could play the role of Apple's iPhones, and BYD will become the Android version of this. And then the concern that people have is that, China is fully supporting BYD, and they're now expanding beyond sales in China. They're trying to get into Europe and then eventually in the US. Then the question that everybody keeps saying is that one of the concerns that the biggest bears has, Jim Chanos was on CNBC, was having a debate with Ross Gerber, and his biggest issue why he won't invest in Tesla is he thinks that Tesla is overly leveraged in risk because of its dependence on Tesla China. And China represents 40% of the sales. At any moment, the government can do something about it. And so, this question about BYD and comparing it to Tesla in China. But so the good news is that we've been hearing, I think this is not a rumor, that Elon is visiting with the Chinese premier. And then some other rumors that came out, this is rumors, Tesla's about to start a large-scale test of FSD beta in China. And what I liked was this guy's comment, Marcel's comment, that he said, if this is true, it's not just because of FSD being in China, but actually shows that Elon and Tesla's ability to navigate China's legal and regulatory framework and having the right connections, right? So if they are able to actually start FSD in China and he's meeting with the premier, it sounds like it's good news.
I think this tweet right here is said exceptionally well. This hits the nail on the head. If they are, and why is this like a big deal? Because China is, our understanding at least, is that the reason for a lot of the issues with Tesla there is their cameras, right? Because they're doing everything camera based, and the Chinese government doesn't want, a US based company, capturing all that data. And we know that Tesla has not only started, work on this in China, right? We have signs of that, but they put effort into creating data centers there to keep everything localized into China. Nothing's leaving outside of the Great Wall, their firewall, if you will. So I think clearly there are signs there of that going on. And I don't. If this happens, there's no risk, I think, to Tesla China. But also, if you think Tesla China is the big risk for Tesla, name one company that doesn't have that risk. Name one. The US has the risk of China if that happens, if something happens, right? If China starts to shut down towards US companies, or something gets to that point where they take over Tesla China, well, then we have way, way bigger problems, because that means that something geopolitically has gotten extremely elevated, and now China is shutting down, anything from U.S. companies, right? You don't just start with Tesla China, especially with an administration that could care less about Tesla, right? So like, you're not really spitting in Biden's face by doing any of that. You're if anything, Biden, oh, thanks, go unions. Right. So I don't see it as the political pawn that a lot of people think it is. And again, that tweet is exceptionally well written. If FSD is allowed to do testing and to get released in China, that will just show you what Elon has been able to do, what Tom Zhu's been able to do with the China government, things that, frankly, you haven't been able to see any administration from a political perspective be able to do. Except, I guess the closest would be Trump, and I wouldn't even say he did anything that well there. So yeah, I think this would show you just how next level that Elon and the team are.
What do you think about these two comments here? So one, John says, well, what percent of Apple iPhones already in China? So yes, they're obviously making it there, right? And of course, they've just recently started creating a factory outside of China into India, just in case. And then LJ is saying that Tesla China is becoming less and less central to Tesla with new factories. Yes and no, right? So don't we need to have Tesla Indonesia, Tesla South Korea, something like that, to then really, truly, kind of reduce that risk?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't think Apple's all about. I think Apple's not doing it so much for political reasons. I'm sure that's like an element, obviously, in it. But I believe labor in India is now cheaper than it is in China, so that's another element. But the idea was, they kind of had a single point of failure, right? Where literally all of their phones were assembled in China. And with COVID, that became your single point of failure. And so essentially all they're doing is creating, a high availability architecture is what they're doing, where now they'll have India. So if China goes down, well, India can pick up or still keep things going. Well, guess what? Tesla was kind of already set up like that, because even though China went down, Berlin was still going, Fremont was still going, Austin was still going. So again, you can see where like Tesla's they're just on another level, right? They didn't have that single point of failure. Did it hurt? Did it hurt Q2? Yeah, it did. We had less vehicles. We all acknowledge that. But it's not like they were, just completely shut down.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's a very good point. I mean, if you look at Apple, you want to compare us to Apple, one of the greatest companies in the last decade. They had a single point of failure, right? They had all their factories, all their products made in Foxconn in China. Well, Tesla already has multiple factories, like you just said. So it's almost like, yeah, if they shut down Tesla China, the other factories will make up for it. But now you have to just spend the money to deliver it.
Exactly.
But that's what they were trying to prevent. But they have multiple factories, and so it's not like it's as that big of risk as everybody's thinking it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, let's say Fremont, Shanghai, 250 a year, that's 500,000, or excuse me, Berlin and Austin, and then Fremont, say another 750. That's almost 1.5 million there. Once Mexico's up, it's going to be negligible at that point. Like it'll
Right.
have an impact and effect, but it's not going to be this, doomsday scenario that everyone talks about.
Okay. Well, having said that, in fact, it's the opposite. So we're seeing that Tesla is actually doubling down on investing more in China. So I love the argument that people are saying that actually, um, if Tesla was seeing a demand problem, they wouldn't be investing in multiple factories, multiple expansions, continuing to build. This is another rumor that came out from the Chinese publication Sina Finance, and they said that they were they were saying that industry insiders told them, but Tesla's planning a grand production capacity map for its new low-cost model. A bunch of the Tesla Twitter community people were saying that they actually think that this rumor has validity because of how detailed it was. But some of the points about the rumor is that it's going to be a low cost model of a small Model Y. And they're going to build 4 million vehicles per year. And that's going to be split up between Giga Berlin, Giga Shanghai. Giga Berlin and Shanghai will be responsible for 1 million vehicles each, and then 2 million from the Monterey factory. So this is pretty interesting. What was your reaction when you heard either number one, that it's a Model Y, and two, that they're going to be building this also in Giga Shanghai?
Yeah, I mean, I think that just makes me think it's a hatchback, right? So I think we kind of all expected that type of form factor. Um, what I was actually surprised about was that it was only 4 million, right? It makes me think, okay, well, how are we going to get to 20 million, right? Like, how are those numbers? So let's say we can do 3 million with the current lineup. Okay, and then you get another 4 million from this new variant. Okay, that's 7 million. Let's say you get million from Cybertruck. Okay, that's 8 million. Let's say they throw a van in and you get, let's say, another 2 million from that for some reason. All right, that's 11 million. Right, so it makes you wonder, like, what are we gonna do to get to that 20 million? Are the rest of those robo taxis, or are there just other variants that we don't know about? Is this Gen 3 just this 4 million for one variant of the Gen 3? So it just honestly just made me question all these other things. I'm like, oh, well, I wonder about this now. And then the other big anomalies. So they mentioned Berlin, they mentioned Shanghai, and they mentioned Mexico. What about Austin? What's Austin doing besides the Model Y and Cybertruck? Oh, you have all that land, all that factory space. There's got to be something else going on there, unless it's just gonna be Optimus. I don't know, but it made me think more questions.
Interesting. Yeah, those are good points. But yeah, like you said, it sounds like that they're going to create different variants, right? So the one we heard here was the small Model Y. Doesn't mean that they're not still going to come out with a revised Model 3. But my reaction to this was that, how we all thought that there was going to be a revised Model 3, and that was the thing that we were all focused on, the Project
The
Highland.
Highland, yeah.
And then earnings call came out, and then they said, actually, we are not thinking of shutting down our current production line. We'd rather just create a brand new Gen 3 platform-based factory, the unbox process. That's going to be in the Monterey. And once we figure that out, we're going to just replicate that and build that. And that's what's going to be built for the compact car and the robotaxi. Right. Mm-hmm. And so then I thought, okay, well, then that's why they're doing a smaller Model Y. So the Model Y is easy, they already build it. And so it's just a matter of a small change to it and have a brand new variant to it. And so create new lines in the same factory, but just like changes to it, as opposed to a whole new kind of car almost with a revised Model 3. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean it's exciting. It's I think just to go back to a little bit of the stock price, I think this is gonna be a tough year. I think it's gonna be a tough year for everyone, for every company out there. I'm of the mindset. I mean, I think I've been saying this for a while that we are in a recession. I think we've been in a recession. Even if GDP isn't saying it at the moment, but GDP did say it, last summer. But I think I think we have to get through this year, and then from there, it's gonna be great times, especially with Tesla, because then the factory in Mexico should be coming to completion. We should start getting more rumors and stuff with regards to the next vehicle. Hopefully, we have an unveiling. Hopefully, FSD beta is essentially complete by then. I mean, I think 2024 should be a very exciting year, but we have to get through this year. And I would say keep thinking about the long term. I know it's painful these days, even if we're off the very lows. It's still not that fun that we've had with Tesla, but the good times will be back. But we need these times. These times are healthy for us.
Okay, so we have a question here from LJ. He wants to ask you your personal opinion as to why you think Tesla is so undervalued in so many ways by so many. And you cannot just say macro. Please don't just be, well, it's all macro. Is it all macro?
Well, no, I don't think it's all macro, but I think macro has an effect on what people are doing. I think a lot of people are just keeping their cash on the side or trying to keep some dry powder. I mean, look, a lot of, you want to talk about retail investors, a lot of retail investors are, that spend a lot of money on Tesla are in tech, and tech is going through quite the rift. So you think these people are just going to go and throw the money into investments when their company might be the next one to have a rift? So I think there's a lot of that. I think you have I mean, again, we just look what's happening to the banking systems. I mean, this is not a time for many people, many companies, many funds to just be investing, but a time to have some cushion on the sidelines. And I think like this is real. And then on top of that, it's if we're going to be level-headed and honest, when was the last time Tesla came out with a new product? It's been a while, and people like that excitement. And I would say it's the same problem with Apple, right? Apple has the same thing. It's like, when was the last time Apple came out with something that was actually great? Other than the AirPods, to me, that's the last thing that they did that was great. That's the only thing, in my opinion, that's been great since Steve Jobs is the AirPods. Not saying Tim Cook hasn't done a fantastic job, but from a product perspective, it's a little lackluster. And so I think all that for Tesla, and again, once this Cybertruck comes off the line, that'll be a pretty big deal. Once we see them out there, I think once we see the next gen vehicle, that'll be a big deal. FSD progressing, that's taken longer than even Elon and everyone expected, but I think that's be powerful. It's time, it's products, and it's the current environment. You can't ignore the current environment. People are trying to be conservative. This is lasting a lot longer than people thought. Everyone thought 2023 this would all be over. Not over. Mm-hmm. Everyone thought the war with Ukraine and Russia would be over. Not over. Anything escalating. Finland, I think it's Finland, right? It's part of NATO now. So I mean, like these things, we really haven't gotten anywhere. If anything, stresses have gone up. I mean, we're seeing bank failures now. We're not anywhere near, I would say, to the other side of this. I hope we are. I hope it's soon. Mm-hmm. I hope it's only 4 more months. But this is why, This is a signal for people to say, all right, hold on. If anything, some people are probably thinking of selling to cushion themselves. So be careful out there.
Okay, so it sounds like you are similar to what Christian says. He says that no amount of catalyst for Tesla is going to move the stock if you have a macro the way we have it right now. And the macro needs to improve before, even like every time they make announcements. You were saying that they haven't had a new product, but what really matters is earnings, and they're knocking it out with record production and deliveries and the earnings. And then people just come back and say, well, that's already built in. That's already part of their growth story. That's why their PE is at 50. But, it's it's not fairly valued today, but it's just not going to go up until macro eases. And that's why you originally were saying this 3 months ago, right? You're expecting the macro to be still pretty choppy for a long period of time. And so what's your forecast now? What do you see for 3 months? Or are you just going to say, I don't know?
I think we'll see, right? Because every day, you learn new things. But I think the Fed may pause rate hikes. If the Fed pauses rate hikes, I think that means that we have at least like another 6 months. If the Fed pauses rate hikes before the interest rate is above what CPI is, I would say that means that something's really cracked in the economy and they're worried about it. And so if that's the case, then I would say we still have another 6 months to 7 months post the stopping of their hikes. And that's, I mean, you can go look at every chart. Like, you know, when the Fed stops raising rates, right, things tend to go down. So yeah, I would say it really depends on that. But I think we're getting close. It'll be interesting to see what was the last CPI report? 6%, I think. So I know that's not the Fed's favorite gauge or anything, but housing's coming down, rent's coming down. Those numbers still have yet to come through for CPI. You know, we're slowing. The country's slowing down. The world is slowing down. There's no denying it. Now the question is, will the Fed be smart enough to let off the brakes and just let us coast and have us, I wouldn't even say soft landing. I think we're past the soft landing, but let us coast to not crash into a wall? Or will they just keep going until we crash, and because they think that they can fix it miraculously by just cutting rates, which I think they're overestimating the impacts of what that will have.
Okay, so you're saying that even if they pause now, you still need to wait a little 6 months, and then before a growth stock like Tesla to react, right? You need to see, right, raise they actually true cutting, and then it opens it up, or what are you waiting for?
Well, in my opinion, Tesla should be like I'm trying to think of a split. So it should probably be like a $600 stock. It is what I think, right? But that's me valuing it based off of everything I know. For Tesla to really go back to what it was and get running, we probably need to see a lot more than that, right? You would probably really need to see good signs that the Fed is done. We need to see signs that we're not going to have a banking collapse. We have to see, just kind of those, it's like what they always said at Davos, the animal spirits to return, right? And once you start hearing animal spirits, that terminology resurface, that's when you know that things are good to go, right? Like that's like the phrase they like to use. But yeah, I think it's going to take time, because whatever causes the Fed to stop raising rates, that's going to be something we need to look out for to see what is it that they saw that they're concerned about, that they stopped raising rates. Because right now they're trying to push it as far as they can until something breaks, in my opinion.
Okay, let's get to a couple more news items here. Totally separated this topic, I think, but you tell me if it is. But basically, we got news that Tesla is going to build a full-scale internal litigation and trial team that can handle all aspects of litigation trial work. So this is kind of unique. It's not like the way other companies build their legal team. This is going to be full-scale. They're going to do everything in-house. This is a good sign. What was your thought about this?
Yeah, I think this is really all about getting ready for robotaxi. I think that's what a lot of. Is that what you were thinking?
No, I heard somebody say that, and I thought that was a smart comment. But I thought this was, everybody assumes this is because of the public relations, nip it in the bud, the misinformation out there. But you're thinking this is actually a positive, which is robotaxi. Tell me what you're thinking.
Well, it's not just robotaxis; it's also insurance, right? And so Tesla's, taking on more and more of their. I mean, it's not that hard to see what the play is here, right? I mean, you're gonna have robotaxis. Well, the only way you can truly have robotaxis if the OEM takes, the onus is on them in case there's an accident or something happens. Okay, well, obviously you need an insurance arm for that. Guess what? Tesla has an insurance arm now, and that's spreading out across the country, state by state. Okay. Well, now what happens if you have that insurance arm, you have the robotaxi, the onus is on you, and there's still, malicious actors out there, right? Well, that's where you need a very solid legal team, in-house legal team that knows the inner workings and every days, and you want to set that up before you want to have all that infrastructure internally set up before you actually have robotaxis out there. And if they can handle some other things along the way, great. But I think the real reason for this is for the future with the robotaxi network.
Okay. Wow. I like that take. I hope you're right. I really do hope you're right. What's your opinion on FSD? Have you been playing with it yourself? Have you been following it, or?
Yeah, I think I my latest gauge has been Cindy. Cindy's
Yeah.
my gauge now, Farzad's
Yes.
wife. So Cindy decided to, I guess, use it the other day on her own, and so the fact that now she's gone from I think I think we are talking about it at the last shareholder meeting. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, my wife Farzad and her, we were talking about it, and Cindy was thinking that it's far away, maybe like 10 years out. And then she did a video with Farzad. I want to say it was in December, and she was
Yep. I
saying
remember
10
that
years
one.
out. Yeah, 10
Yeah.
years out. Now she's saying next March. Next March, PTs are being done. I'm like, that's almost a 10x improvement there. So if someone who was that skeptical before is now in it and going from just being skeptical to now even she's trying it out, like that says a lot. That says a lot. But yeah, I think we're getting really close there. You tried to read some of the tea leaves from Elon. He's talking about more and more of the neural networks are eating up the heuristic based coding that they
Yes.
have. So
Yeah.
I think that's bullish to know that there's still more that they can eat up from all of the models. But yeah, I think they're getting close. I think a lot of people have been seeing this and have suspected this, that Tesla is slowly making their own maps that kind of overlay probably with
Yes.
Google's maps. And ideally, if Tesla's maps say one thing, it overrides Google's. And if Google, they use Google to fill in anything they don't have. I think that's probably gonna be a big part of it. And
Yeah.
I think you'll really know when they start working on parking lots. When they start work
Yeah.
on that part of it, that should be your signal of, all right, we're close.
Yeah. So a couple points I want to make on that one. So I actually been saying, and I don't know if this is going to be true or not, but I'm saying that if they come out with a parking lot, so FSD version 11 is supposed to be the single stack, which is a combination of highway driving but also local streets, city streets, but it's also supposed to be parking lots. And I think that when parking lots happen, that's the thing that can go viral. So can everybody's going to take a video. They're going to watch this, car drive itself from the parking spot to pick you up in the front of the Target, and then vice versa. And people are going to be blown away. That I think could go viral when people see that. So that's one thing versus, it driving on its own separately in the cities. Nobody can see that as well as, this is so clear. There's nobody in the car, driving itself. And then two, I don't know if you saw this, but I might be reading too much on this, but Green the Only, who is a kind of a hacker, drills into the data and the software. And he said that he sees signs that Tesla's FSD might actually be kind of doing where am I going with this? What I call memory. So this is the ability for your car, if it's driven the same route before, like me from home to work and work to home, and I've done that many times. Currently, FSD treats it as a brand new experience, and it's optimizing for vision. It doesn't matter if you've driven it before. It treats it like as if it's brand new and trying to make decisions based on that. But in the code, he's saying that it might be now it's mapped it, and if you've driven it already, it's already pre-mapped it already before, and it gets more confident. That's what I call memory. So the same road, and so eventually, if you've driven that thing 20 times, it gets so confident it'll know how to do it properly. It'll copy you the way you've driven it in the past, and and then combined with the vision, it'll prevent any accidents. But that's what I think is missing, and they purposely haven't turned that on because they're trying to optimize for vision labeling. But now, if they turn this on, we might see, just dramatic improvement in capability of FSD, like dramatic, especially for the roads that you drive all the time. That's what I'm hoping might be true.
Yeah, I haven't seen that. That'll be interesting to dive into. I don't know if that is occurring. I don't know if memory would be the right words to use, because but memory is memory is essentially non-stateful storage, right? So you need electricity for that memory to be persistent, and so that's very expensive, okay, to have that. So it's like cash, right? It's very expensive to have it there. So I doubt that's what they're doing. It'd be interesting to look at it. What I could see more likely would be kind of like what I was talking about with the maps, where they
Yeah.
have like Google Maps, and then as someone drives a certain route, they can plug in that and not have to use Google Maps anymore. I could see something like that. But that'd be interesting. But then again, I say that all these vehicles that don't have ultrasonic sensors, the car is using memory somehow whenever for the parts it can't see, to make sure that nothing shows up there whenever someone's parked and been gone. So it's somehow they are using memory somehow, right? They're tracking if something walks in front of it, right? They're doing something there. We just don't know what it is. But with hardware 3, compute and memory are very, very critical. They don't have a lot of it, right? They're using both computers now. I mean, you can even see with the UI, right? The UI it's not what it was, and there's a reason for that. It's because they're trying to maximize the compute, the memory, the storage, everything that they have within the computers that are there now. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see that. I haven't seen that, but I would. I hesitate a little bit to think that it's traditional memory.
Gotcha. No, I agree with you. And the way you described it was, I think, the way Green only explained it, which is that it's like the Google Maps, but even better. Like it's on steroids, right? Because if the FSD car, the Tesla car with FSD, is driven that, it's actually mapping everything like Waze is, but more than that. Like, this is, like it has all the stop signs, of course, all the signs, but every little kind of pothole, every little, where the lane markings are, it's figuring that out because it's got the cameras and it's tracking it all. And then it kind of feeds that back in. So that that's why they're saying that if you use FSD and you actually always use the mapping and you say, this is my destination in the map, and you enter it into the system, it's going to be a much better experience than if you don't do it and just try to drive it on its own, right? Because it's using that information. Okay, the other thing I want to make sure I get from you is the upcoming Tesla earnings call, which is now April 19th, which is really 2 weeks from today. 2 weeks from today, next Wednesday, not next week, but the following Wednesday. What is your expectation? So here is Zach Kirkhorn, and I'm looking up here, not the Blue Niner, says they're still expecting $47,000 of ASP across all models, and they're still expecting 20% automotive gross margin is still what they're expecting. Is that your forecast right now, or what do you think is going to happen to margins?
Yeah, I think Zach knows the answer to this before he said any of that. And a lot of it, I mean, whatever we see, I think a lot of the vehicles that will have been bought will probably be vehicles that were ordered prior. Not all, right? Because we have seen, lead times drop like crazy. But yeah, I think they'll still have good pricing power protection, and we still haven't seen a lot of the like you can't forget, like, a lot of the reduction in cost of goods that we have seen, it lags, right? It lags before we see it in the numbers, and so I can see a lot of that kind of balancing out the drop in prices. And 20%, don't get me wrong, that's a huge drop in margins already, but I think that kind of stifles how much of a drop it would be. But yeah, I mean, this is such a hard quarter to really know what it's going to be. And I would say I would even temper your expectations for next quarter. I would say next quarter's where you'll really understand where the margins are with these new price cuts. And from there, I would say the margins will go up after next quarter. I would say they're not going to go lower, I guess is what I'm really trying to say. So
okay.
We'll see.
Were you expecting a higher delivery number, and would have a higher delivery number made you more comfortable with a better margin expectations? Or do you think that? Yeah, go ahead.
It's actually right what I was expecting. I still think they're going to hit 2 million this year. I say 1.8 to 2 million, right? Because it's going to be a tough environment. But I didn't expect them to be at 500,000, right? Because they're, it's not like it's a 500 type year, right? You'll have, 430, 440, 450, and then maybe you have a 470, 490, and then you have a 510, a 520, and then maybe you have like a 570, 580, right? Like we're still ramping. We're still growing production. I mean, Berlin just hit 5,000 a week. Austin just hit 4,000 a week. They're still ramping. Where are they going to be at the end of the year, right? So I think that story's still building. And I think Fremont can also eke out some better results. And don't forget, like with Q1, there are lots of headwinds, factory shutdowns, right? The usual. But normally Q2, Q3, we don't see that except for last year.
Again, your dichotomy, because you just warned us about the scary recession and the stagflation and the economy, that we're not out of this. But you're still thinking that despite the macro the way it is, that Tesla will still be able to sell every car it makes, and if it is, they might still be able to hit their 2 million target by the end of the year.
Yeah,
with price cuts maybe.
Yeah, well, there's two things that are true. One, people still need to buy cars, right? There's still a lifespan of your current car, and then right. So that turnover is going to happen regardless of where we are in the economy. And then the other thing that is always true is for exciting best of breed products, good times, bad times, people still buy them. The same reason, good times, bad time, recession, it doesn't matter. People still go to restaurants, right? Mm-hmm. People still buy their iPhone. They're not going to trade down for a different, there's some things that it doesn't matter how bad the economy is, certain brands, certain products that create that type of desire, want, excitement. And tech is that thing. Right? People will spend more on their technology than they will on their groceries, right? They'd rather cut back on that, or they'd rather cut back on dating or going out for food, or people make these decisions to feel good, right? I mean, you get into this kind of point where you're like, okay, well, what am I doing every day? Like everything is going to hell. My portfolio's down. I'm not living life anymore. Well, let's YOLO it. Let's go buy the car I've been waiting for that I haven't, or let's go grab that meal. Let's go to that, let's go feel good, right? There's only no matter if you're in a recession, people we still need to feel good, right? And so I urge you to be responsible about whatever purchases you do. I'm probably the cheapest, most frugal person you'll ever meet, but I these things are just ingrained in human beings. You can't deny it. I mean, how many days do you go before you're let's go out to dinner?
Yeah.
It's only so many days.
Yeah, there's two data points that I've been watching closely. One is a car dealership guy keeps reporting that the used car prices for ICE vehicles, the used car prices in general, has been skyrocketing up. Still going up. And the reason people are thinking is because people are no longer going to buy a brand new car. They want to be careful. Either they're going to delay the purchase of the car, or they're going to buy, and then they know that they're not going to buy an ICE vehicle anymore, a gas car. So I think that drop in buying gas cars has really happened faster. That the society has realized that EVs are so much better in every way. It's the future. Why buy an old tech? So that drop is happening sooner, and so they're buying used cars, but the price is going up. And then the other data point that I keep coming back to, and I've repeated several times on the show, is when there was the last recession, a massive recession in 2008. There was the massive drop from a normal 17 million cars global sold brand new cars per year. It fell to 12 million, okay, from 17 to 12 million. But that was the year that hybrids took off, right? And that's because people are looking to buy, they need, like you said, what you just said was correct, which is that there are still going to be people buying cars, no matter how terrible the economy is. They're either going to try to do used cars, but when the used cars go up, and the second thing they'll do is they'll be much more frugal about which car they buy. They're looking at the hybrids, they're looking at the electric vehicles this year. So in fact, it's the EVs that's going to, actually it's like a weird thing, but if there's a massive recession, the EVs are the ones going to take advantage of this and be able to succeed, especially now that there's price parity because of the, even without the IRA credits, there's already price parity. The Model 3 is already cheaper than a Prius and others, for example. So, so actually it's all good. So I've got a question here from LJ asking you, what you thought about Volkswagen's programming and software division, that they wasted that money and then they fired them and Herbert Diess was let go. Can anyone compete with Tesla's software OS division? Yeah.
Absolutely. There's many incredible companies out there, right, who know software, but there aren't many incredible companies out there that know software, know hardware, mainly vehicle hardware, and that's just the sweet spot Tesla is in. And so, is it possible? Sure. Will it be economical? Probably not, right? Because like these software companies are out there that would be, let's say Apple did it, right? Apple's not going to build a car. They're not. I would bet a lot of money on that, right? And Tim Cook himself, he said he likes to be in the intersection, is the word he used. He likes to be in the intersection of what's happening. So no, I think lots of companies can make great software, could probably do better software than Tesla. But Tesla's secret power, their secret sauce, isn't just in their software. It's the fact that they have the vehicle. They work maniacally on it, right? They understand what they're doing. They take the same cost-effective, discipline, the best parts, no part approach in their hardware, in their manufacturing, in their software, everything. It's the same thing like with full self-driving, right? Can someone else come and compete and eventually one day be a number 2 player to Tesla with autonomy? Yeah, sure. Many companies could do it. The problem is the big moat that Tesla has. Do you think about ChatGPT, right? Everyone thinks it's so amazing, and it is. It's amazing. Like, shout out to them. They did a great job. But their data set isn't proprietary. They have web crawlers, right? They crawl the internet to get their data. Anyone can do that. Anyone can do that. Anyone can clean up the data. Anyone can train as long as they have enough compute. And guess what? Companies like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, they have the compute, and it's even cheaper for them than it would be for OpenAI. So competition can come from them. Competition for Tesla, good luck grabbing that data. Who's going to get all that data? How are you going to get it? How? It's essentially impossible unless some OEMs start to decide to collect data the way Tesla did. So, just on that alone, to me, it's game, set, match. But yeah, so again, can other people make software as good as Tesla? Yeah, sure. Maybe even better. What they can't do is everything else. Everything else. And that's the Tesla difference. It's everything. It's the manufacturing, the software, the ecosystem, the data, the engineer, just all of it. That is you can't replicate all that.
Let's see. I want to hear your opinion because we're going to go back to FSD since you brought it up. Okay. So I've been having this kind of a small debate with Alexandra and regarding Tesla's FSD. She thinks that the only time that it'll start becoming added to the valuation of Tesla's market cap and stock is that you need to see FSD's uptake, whether it's subscription or sales. You need to start it growing and showing the $1 billion is growing in terms of an uptake, right? So when FSD becomes good enough, more people start buying it. It contributes to all to the margin and earnings, and then people are going to start calculating, right, the investment, and also start doing it. I'm thinking that it could actually be maybe similar to what happened to ChatGPT, where there's an awakening in society, right? So we're all following AI for 5-10 years, and we're all looking at it going, oh, yeah, someday, maybe not in my lifetime, or some people go, oh my God, be careful. 10 years from now, about 90% of people would listen to Elon 6 years ago and go, yeah, not really. I'm not scared of AI. Look at it. Can't even, do my spelling properly and let them fix my autocorrect first before you bring it up. Then all of a sudden, like this, right? One release of ChatGPT 4, even after ChatGPT 3 came out, people are still kind of, oh yeah. 4 comes out, and all of a sudden it's like, holy cow, this is a different being. Is it possible that it's conscious? What's the danger to this humanity? Entire world woke up, and it's the number one product, as you've probably heard, is like no other product has ever been utilized as fast as this, adopted as fast as this, because it's so valuable. Could something like that happen with FSD, where one day it just shows up and people are going, oh my God, this thing can do this? And then when that happens, the investment world will wake up and start throwing money at Tesla, regardless of whether or not it's been adopted yet, and there's no run up.
Yeah, I think that is how it'll play out. There's no reason to not think that's how it'll play out. I mean, it could not. That's possible. I mean, when you look at the iPhone, right? Like, I mean, I think you're the one that actually. It was one of your videos that kind of turned me on to how delayed Apple's stock was to reacting to the iPhone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, if I'm making an analogy, apples to apples, I would say that's more so from an EV perspective, right? And Tesla's lead on that. And so we're looking at FSD beta, like ChatGPT is the perfect analogy for it, right? You see how viral it went. Now, will Tesla go that viral? No, it can't, right? Because anyone could easily get access to ChatGPT. All you need is a web browser, right? To have access to FSD, well, you need a Tesla to begin with. And then you have to pay for FSD beta, whereas ChatGPT was free out the gate. So in that sense, no, it won't. But I do think that there will be a viral effect the same way that we saw with it, right? You'll have people on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, and it's gonna be like you were saying, right? And I really think I 100% agree with you. I think it'll first be a parking lot thing where someone will go ahead and call their vehicle before they're even out of the supermarket, and then they come out with their cart full of groceries and they just load it up, and it's gonna be one of those things where people just are gonna be you're gonna be dropped off in the front of the gym at 4 p.m. when it's the most packed time, and you're not gonna care about parking because you're just gonna tell your car to go and you're gonna get dropped off. People are gonna be like, "What are you doing? Why don't you have a Tesla?" Like it's gonna be like an iPhone thing, right? Where people are like, "Oh, you got a green text? All right." That's annoying. It's gonna be the same thing. Like, oh, you may have to walk all the way there. Like, you don't have, like, when are you gonna get a Tesla, man? Like, it's gonna be like that. I think. So I'm with you 100%. I think that will be kind of the viral moment, or it'll be people. Like right now, like people, entrepreneurs or YouTubers or whatever, like to make like things of like, yeah, this is a day in the life. I make my coffee. Oh, I go to the gym, all that. It's gonna be something like that, except it'll be like, yeah, I do some work on my ride to wherever in my Tesla. Tesla's driving itself. That will get injected into that.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay, so thank you very much. That was a wonderful conversation. You talked about economy. We talked about competitors. We even talked about topics I didn't think we were going to get to, which is FSD and others. So really appreciate your feedback and thoughts. Everybody follow Nick. He is at Investing Against the Grain, his YouTube channel, and check him out. I actually like that one little short you did with your wife. And that when did you guys get married? Can I ask you that?
Oh, we got married in September in Greece.
Oh, so that's very recent.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, we
that's
met
before
in Greece,
I knew you.
We got married in Greece. So.
Gotcha. Okay, next time you got to invite me to the kids or something like that. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate you. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Cheers, everybody.